Following a structured training plan from the internet is guaranteed to get you injured.
And in this video, I'll show you how I structure my training and how you can too with a few simple steps so that you can be your own coach.
Now, if you click on this video, you're probably cheap like me and you'd rather just make your own training plan than spend $30 on a generic PDF. Now, I've been running for over a year now without a coach, and I've seen all of my PBs get completely smashed. And I think it's because I'm running my own individualized training programs that's helping me do this. In fact, I wrote out my entire marathon training block in an hour plane ride the other day. And I did that using these 4 rules that I use to make training plans. Now, later in the video, I'll show you how I made this plan in only a couple of minutes and how you can do the same. But first, I'm gonna show you the 4 rules that I use to always write my training plans. Now, rule number 1 is that we always have a long run. No matter what time of the year it is or what you're training for, we always have a long run. This is so important to build your aerobic system, to develop the resilience in your joints and muscles, and to help you to start running further for longer. And what's interesting is the contents of the long run vary depending on what you're training for. Here's what I mean. Now, if I'm training for a 5K or a 10K race, or maybe even just base building, I will go long, slow, and easy on my long runs, aiming for 15 to 25 kilometers. But if I was training for longer distances, like a half marathon or a full marathon, I'd make sure that I'd be adding in specific paces into my long runs to make sure that I can get used to running really fast for a long period of time. Okay, rule number 2, any non-easy session is always followed up by an easy day. It goes without saying that doing a threshold session on one day and then backing it up the day after with 400-meter repeats and a VO2 max workout is gonna be an absolute disaster on your body. So I always make sure that the day after a hard session, I try and relax a little bit and I do recovery or easy runs. And to me, recovery and easy runs are basically the same thing because they're slow and conversational and they're all about repairing your body ready for the next hard session. And who knows, after a really hard session, you may even need 2 easy days to get fully recovered for the next one, and that's okay. Okay, rule number 3, every session has to have a specific goal that's moving you towards the whole goal of the actual program itself. For example, when you go out for a recovery run, are you running slow enough that you can be fully recovered for the next session day? And during your sessions, are you programming in specific paces that relate to the goal that you're trying to get to? And are those sessions actually progressing throughout the plan? You don't know this unless you plan a specific goal for every session that you have.
We can measure progress with many things. Your effort levels at a certain pace, the volume of your workouts, your heart rate, elevation, paces that you run, or even distance that you covered through a week. We want to use as many metrics as we can to monitor your progress. The whole point of a training plan is to plan out progression, so everything should be geared towards this.
Now, rule number 4 is all about the 10-day rule. And to understand the 10-day rule, we have to talk a little bit about training paces. Here are all the training paces from easy running all the way to sprint speed. And during training, we want to be hitting each pace range at least once every 10 days. Now, for this top end speed, we're going to be doing strides and hill sprints and things like that, where we have really short bouts of exercise and really long rest times. Now, this VO2 max range will be between our 5K and 10K pace workouts and is aimed at working really hard, but in a zone that's going to help us to build our circulatory system and our heart to deliver more oxygen where we need it. And these sessions are really fatiguing. And this threshold area will be between our half marathon and our marathon pace zones. Now, because threshold is a little bit less fatiguing than the VO2 max workouts, it means that we can have short rest times and longer bouts of exercise at a lower intensity to really hit that threshold zone. And after this, we have our steady running or our upper aerobic running. And further on from this is our easy pace running and recovery pace runs. Steady runs allows us to bridge the gap between our easy running and all of the other pace ranges starting at marathon pace. And as you can see, as we plot all of this on the graph, we can actually aim to move all of these pace ranges to the left so that everything gets faster. Now, from my experience, I found the biggest benefits in my running happens when I hit every single pace range at least once per 10 days. I found that if I don't hit my lactate threshold and my VO2 max sessions at least once per 10 days, they start to go backwards. Because during a session, you break down your body and then your body rebuilds to make you stronger and faster. And if you don't utilize those adaptations, they very quickly get taken away. So we need to be hitting every pace range at least once per 10 days if we want to continue to push our fitness in the right direction. And most of the training plans that I've looked at in the past have really focused on one specific pace range and not even bothered to look at any of the other ones, which is going to slow you down over time and lead you to a couple of issues. Now, too much, especially when it comes to VO2 max workouts, and we really struggle to recover and we start to get fatigued. But too little, and we waste 16 weeks of our lives in a training block.
So taking this into account, here's how I would plan out my VO2 max sessions over a 4-week period. Let's say, for example, that we have each VO2 max session every 9 days. So the first one would be on the Tuesday of week 1, and then 9 days later, Thursday on week 2, and then the next week after that, in week 3, we'd have it on the Saturday. What this would mean is that we could have the 4th week off completely to start again on the Tuesday in a metaphorical week 5. And this means that if we do the maths, and I think that's correct, we're doing a session for VO2 max every 9.2 days. So this means that we're not gonna be overdoing it with our VO2 max sessions and trying to do too many too often. So every 9 days is probably gonna be absolutely perfect. And if you're really well trained, maybe more like every 7 days. Now I'll explain the rest of this program later in the video, but first, maybe let's talk a little bit about why you shouldn't just blindly follow training programs that you buy online. Now we want to be pushing our fitness curve in the right direction across all aspects, but perhaps for us weekend warriors, doing too much in one area and negating all the rest can cause some serious issues. And when you buy a pre-made training plan on the internet for like $40, you already have that psychological bias of wanting to nail every single workout that you paid for. And I usually find that I run into 2 different issues when I try to stick to the plan. Number one is that I find that I just get really tired, and I find that my legs just can't push me any harder during hard workouts. So I would never maximize the full workout because I was so fatigued, and because I'm fatigued and I'm trying to smash these workouts out, the next thing would happen, which would be I would get injured. How many times have you thought in training, I'm really tired and sore, but it's on the plan, so I have to get it done? As a non-elite athlete, do you really need to do this? This is why I think that you should make your own plan, individualized to yourself, but you should also be flexible enough to modify the plan to make sure that you're getting the most out of your body and not stepping over the line into that injury and fatigue zone.
And the best athletes in the world structure their training just like this. They take it easy when they feel like they're starting to lose control, and they take complete rest days when they feel like they need to.
Now, the way that I think about this is like when you make A, B, and C goals for a race. So an A goal is something that you would do on the most perfect day with the perfect conditions and your legs feel great and everything goes really well. And a B and a C goal would be what would happen when things don't go to plan. C goal. So here's what I do. I write a training program that I would like to do if all the conditions were perfect on every training session and I felt great throughout the whole thing. And I try to stick to the plan if all other variables allow it. But if it doesn't, then I change my focus into nailing specific sessions that I know are gonna give me the best bang for my buck, like the long run, for example, or a key specific session for like a 5K or a 10K race. Having this flexibility and mental awareness to take care of yourself and understand that you're not gonna be able to do the best that you possibly can every day, that's really valuable. All right, let's make this program. Okay, so let's make a general training program for a short race, like a 5K, that will be happening at the end of the 5th week. We need to add our VO2 max workouts like we did previously at around 5K or 10K pace. So I'll check those sessions in now. And I showed you how I planned out those sessions every 9 days previously. I've gone with some 400 meter repeats and some 1K repeats, as you've seen in many programs before, to keep it quick and basic. Okay, now we need to balance our threshold and our steady running into this plan too. And in the 4th week, where the VO2 max session doesn't actually fall in that week, we'll add a steady run. As you can see, we're hitting every single pace range that we talked about earlier every 10 days, which is absolutely perfect. Then finally, we can fill the gaps with easy running or rest days. How easy is that? On the days where we have 2 easy runs in a row, I would add in some strides to the end of the easy run, like here and here. So let's have a look at the last 3 weeks of my training plan as I build towards my half marathon. So as we can see, I'm trying to follow all 4 of those rules that I outlined at the start of the video to make sure that I'm pushing my fitness forward, working my way towards this marathon block, which I actually am very excited for. And because I made this plan myself, and I know from the history of my training what I can get away with each week, I know that I can do a VO2 max session and a threshold session every week and not have too many issues. And like I mentioned earlier, this is my A plan, meaning it's the plan that I'd like to do if everything goes right. And unfortunately, everything didn't go right in this. So let's get into that. In week 4, I had some insane leg soreness because I tried to bump up the intensity of my leg training sessions during the week. So rather than trying to push through the plan and potentially just cooking my legs even further, I dropped the Thursday session and did some easy running instead. And by Saturday, my legs were completely fine again and I was all good. So that was definitely a smart decision. In week 5, I pretty much nailed the whole week, except for my midweek long run where I dropped it to 75 minutes instead of 90, just because it felt like I didn't need to run any further that day. And then we get to week 6 where it basically fell apart, but I did my best to salvage a good training week. I traveled during this, which meant I had to shuffle my whole week around so that I could skip
my long run on the Sunday and bring it to Saturday, which just made the week a bit of a mess. So traveling on the Friday meant that I had to basically do my easy run to the shops to get food and back. And then on the Saturday session, I had some serious allergies to something that was in Melbourne, which completely destroyed my VO2 max session that week. And so the mileage that I lost in those 2 days, I made up by bumping my long run up to 28 kilometers instead of 26. And then when I got home on the Sunday night, I did a quick little 5K around the block just to keep the legs moving and topping off my aerobic base. We adapted and we overcame. Now those 3 weeks of training were in my base building phase. And if you're interested in knowing how I've structured my base building phase and how you can too, then you'll have to click on this next video and give it a click and a like and all that. And I'll see you over there.